I never expected a single phone call to cut me out of my own family. I was closing up the shop, late hands covered in grease, hair tied back, engine still ticking behind me when my dad's voice came through the line, cold and rehearsed. Stella, your sister wants her boyfriend to make a good first impression. You being there would embarrass her. So don't come. No apology. No hesitation. Just exile. I stood there, frozen between the smell of oil and the sting of humiliation, wondering how I became the daughter they hide instead of the daughter they celebrate. I thought the worst part was hearing my father say those words. I was wrong. Because the next morning, my entire family showed up at my door, furious, defensive, ready to blame me for their shame. And her boyfriend, the man they were so desperate to impress? He said something that shattered everything they believed about me. The pounding on my front door shook me out of a half-dream. I stumbled down the hallway, still wearing the oversized sweatshirt I slept in, hair messy and sticking to my cheek. I thought it might be a package, or maybe Jordan stopping by early for coffee. I was wrong. I pulled the door open, and there they were. Dad, Mom, Vanessa. And behind them, the man whose first impression I apparently threatened. Blake. Dad didn't even greet me. He shoved a hand forward like he was delivering a warrant. "What did you tell Grandma?" he demanded. I blinked. "Good morning to you two." Mom stepped in, voice sharp and sugar-coated. "Stella, don't play dumb. She called us in tears saying you told her you were banned from Thanksgiving. It's like speeded in despairing her my was sighed in the backs was ovation and dispeeded attestated friend. The stacks indistated, sided indistant is the first indication. I didn't tell anyone," I said. Mom's eyes narrowed. "Well, someone did, and now the entire family thinks we are the villains." Villains. The word sat there, ironic and heavy. Vanessa folded her arms, perfectly styled hair cascading over a beige coat that cost more than my monthly rent. "Honestly, Stella, this is unbelievable," she snapped. "I'm under so much pressure, and you're making it worse." I stared. "Pressure?" "Vanessa. Dad told me I wasn't invited." She huffed. "It was a simple request. Blake needs to see the family at their best." Dad nodded like she'd uttered some divine truth. "Exactly. You always twist things, Stella. Always making us look bad." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was the first sound my brain could form. "I make you look bad?" Vanessa's eyes flicked down my outfit. "You're literally standing here in pajamas. Because it's 8 in the morning and you're pounding on my door," I snapped. Dad jabbed a finger toward me. "This is exactly why we didn't want you there. Your attitude, your presentation." My throat tightened, but I held their gaze. Then something shifted. Blake, quiet until now, stepped forward, hands tucked awkwardly into his jacket pockets. He looked at me, really looked, his eyes scanning my face like he was trying to place me. "Hold on," he said slowly. "Stella Miller?" The porch went still. Vanessa frowned. "What are you doing?" But Blake didn't even turn toward her. He stepped closer. "Wait, are you the Stella who rebuilt that '69 Mustang? The one from those restoration forums?" Silence. Everyone stared at him like he'd spoken another language. My heart kicked once. Hard. Because for the first time that morning, someone wasn't looking at me with judgment. They were looking at me with recognition. And that was the moment everything started to unravel. For a moment, nobody moved. Even the cold morning air seemed to pause. Blake stared at me like he'd just uncovered a secret. "You're that Stella Miller?" he repeated. "The one who documented the full-frame rebuild? The posts everyone kept saving?" Dad blinked. "What rebuild?" Mom frowned. "What posts?" Vanessa whipped around to face him. "Blake, what are you even talking about? She changes tires for minimum wage." Blake let out a short, breathless laugh. "No, Vanessa. She doesn't just change tires. Stella basically resurrected a dead car, a '69 Mustang. People were obsessed with that build. I learned half my restoration basics from her threads." He turned to me again, eyes bright with genuine awe. "I can't believe that was you." A strange warmth crawled up my chest, something between embarrassment and pride, something I hadn't felt from my own family in years. Dad scoffed loudly. "This is ridiculous. She's just trying to make herself look good." I swallowed. "I didn't say anything." Mom's tone sharpened. "Well, this little hobby doesn't change why we're here." "Hobby?" Blake repeated, eyebrows shooting up. She restored an entire classic car by herself. Vanessa snapped back at him, voice cracking. Blake, stop defending her. This is not why we came. Stella embarrassed us. I stared at her. By existing? You know exactly what I mean. Vanessa threw her hands up. You show up to things in ripped jeans. You smell like motor oil. You don't blend with the family image. Blake needs to meet people who represent me well. Represent you? I repeated. I'm your sister, not a brand accessory. Dad cut in. See? This attitude. Always confrontational. I let out a breath through my nose. Dad, you uninvited me. I didn't confront anyone. Mom shook her head violently. We've raised you better than this, Stella. And now you're making Grandma upset, making us answer questions. You could have told the truth, I said. That shut them up. Not for long, but long enough for Blake to speak again. Hold on, he said, stepping slightly in front of Vanessa. You uninvited her? Mom stiffened. It was for the good of the family, for the good of the image, I corrected. Vanessa groaned dramatically. Oh my God, this is going nowhere. She jabbed a manicured finger toward me. Look, Stella, whether you're some niche car celebrity or not, Blake's first impression matters more than your feelings. And you all showed up here, I said slowly, because you needed to control the narrative. Dad pointed at me. Exactly. We can't have people thinking we abandoned you. But you did, I said quietly. Silence again. Heavy. Accusatory. Truthful. Blake looked between them and me, jaw tightening. Is this normal? He asked me. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Because the stunned look on his face said it all. He finally saw them. Not the curated version, but the real thing. And that realization cracked the family image worse than anything I could have said. For a moment, Blake's question, is this normal? Hung in the air like smoke from an engine fire. Dad stiffened. This conversation is over. Stella, get your tools and come fix the roof. It's leaking again. My eyebrows shot up. You came here to demand free repairs? Mom lifted her chin proudly. Family helps, family. Family doesn't weaponize guilt, I said. Vanessa stepped forward, eyes narrowed. This is ridiculous. I still need the $300 for the event decor. You know, my brand depends on this. I stared at her like she'd grown a second head. You uninvited me from Thanksgiving and now you want money? It's separate, she snapped. You always help. There it was. The truth behind everything. Not love, not respect, convenience. Dad waved impatiently. Hurry up. We don't have all day. Something inside me shifted like a gear locking into place after years of grinding. No. The word wasn't loud, but it hit the porch like a dropped wrench. Dad froze. What did you say? I took a breath. No, I'm not fixing anything today. Mom's eyes widened. Stella, I'm not giving Vanessa money. Vanessa scoffed. Are you seriously doing this right now? I'm not covering missed bills. I'm not bailing you out. I'm not carrying this family anymore. The silence that followed was violent. Dad stepped toward me, voice low and dangerous. You ungrateful. No, I repeated, louder. I'm done. For the first time in my life, none of them knew what to say. It was like I'd spoken in a language they'd never heard. Mom pressed a hand to her chest. We raised you. And I'm grateful, I said. But parenting isn't a debt I owe forever. Vanessa shook her head, furious tears forming. You're being dramatic. It's not the sea. You uninvited me, I said evenly. And now you're angry that the consequences don't match the image you want to keep. Blake exhaled softly behind them. He wasn't smiling. But there was something like relief in his eyes, as if he'd suspected the truth but needed to see it. Then he said quietly, Good for you. Vanessa whipped toward him. Why are you taking her side? Because she isn't wrong, Blake said. The words felt like gasoline hitting open flame. Dad jabbed a finger at him. You're a guest here. Stay out of this. Blake didn't move. Then stop dragging her like she owes you her life. Mom's voice sharpened to a knife edge. Stella, tell him he's wrong. Tell him you didn't pay our bills, fix our house, cover emergencies. Tell him we didn't rely on you. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Because Blake's expression slowly shifting from curiosity to shock to understanding said everything. He saw it, the pattern, the taking, the using. Dad's voice cracked. You'll regret this. But for the first time ever, I didn't feel fear. I felt something new. Weightless. Solid. Free. I think you should leave, I said quietly. And my porch fell completely still. When they finally stomped off my porch, slamming the car doors like children denied dessert, the silence they left behind felt unreal. My chest still trembled with leftover adrenaline, but underneath it was something steadier. Something solid. A boundary. A real one. I closed the door slowly, locked it, and leaned my forehead against the wood. For a moment, I just breathed. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Jordan. Hey, bringing pumpkin pie to the garage later. You in? I stared at the message, warmth blooming somewhere behind my ribs. Yes, I was in. By evening, the garage glowed under soft amber string lights we'd hung last month. The space smelled like cinnamon, motor oil, and the comfort of people who didn't demand perfection from me. Jordan arrived first, carrying the pie like it was a newborn. Behind him came Mrs. Ramirez from the flower shop next door, insisting everyone take slices of her sweetbread. 2 teens from the community center wandered in with hot chocolate packets and shy smiles. Even Mr. Collins, the retired mailman whose truck I'd patched together more times than I could count, parked himself in a cornered chair with his cane. We laughed. We ate. We argued over whether canned cranberry sauce was a crime against humanity. Every so often, someone would nudge my shoulder, pass me a cup, ask if I'd eaten. No one asked me to fix anything. No one asked for money. No one asked me to shrink myself for their comfort. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the extra seat at the table people avoided. I felt wanted. Halfway through the night, Jordan raised a plastic cup of cider. To Stella, he said. The only person I know who can make a busted carburetor and a busted night better. Everyone clinked their cups. My throat tightened, not with sadness, but something gentler. Gratitude. Relief. Belonging. But warmth only lasts so long before the cold finds a crack. Because right as I was reaching for another slice of pie, a thunderous, violent pounding echoed against the garage doors. The entire room froze. Jordan looked at me. The teens huddled closer. Mrs. Ramirez whispered, "Ay, Dios," and something in my gut told me the storm wasn't over, it had just arrived. The pounding wasn't just loud, it was violent. The garage doors shook in their rails, rattling the string lights, making everyone flinch. Jordan froze mid-step. The teens looked at me with wide eyes. Mrs. Ramirez clutched her purse like a shield. My stomach dropped. I already knew who it was. The pounding continued, 3 hits at a time, a furious rhythm only one man in my life had ever used. Dad. I walked to the door slowly, each step echoing in my chest. Jordan whispered, "Stella, you don't have to open it." But I did. I unlatched the side door and pulled it open. And there they were. My dad, my mom, and Vanessa, faces red, breath sharp, eyes wild like they'd marched through hell just to drag me back into it. Dad pointed at me immediately, voice booming through the cold night. "You humiliated us." The shout pierced through the garage. People behind me gasped. Mom stepped forward, shaking with fury. "Do you know what your relatives are saying? After you abandoned Thanksgiving? After you told them lies about us?" "I didn't tell anyone anything," I said steadily. Vanessa shoved past them. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. "That doesn't matter. Blake LEF'd me. He walked out of dinner and said he needed space from me and from our family." She looked deranged, heartbroken, furious all at once. "This is your fault," she screamed. Every eye in the garage turned to her, not with judgment, with shock. I kept my voice calm. "Vanessa, I didn't make him leave." "Yes, you did," she shrieked. "You've been ruining my life since we were kids, and now you took the one person who—" She cut herself off. Everyone heard it anyway. Dad got in my face. "You need to fix this. Now." "Fix what?" I asked. "Your image?" He snarled. "Everything was fine until you started acting like a victim." I clenched my jaw. "Dad, you uninvited me. And look how you retaliated," Mom cut in. "You embarrassed our family name. Family name, image, reputation, always the same script." I felt the eyes of my garage family on me, Jordan. The teens, Mrs. Ramirez, Mr. Collins, all watching the collapse of my childhood mythology. Vanessa wiped her tears with a shaking hand. "He left because of you. He said he couldn't handle the toxicity." That toxicity isn't mine, I said. And right then, another voice cut in from behind them. No, it's not. A hush fell over the entire garage. Blake stepped into view, snow dusting his shoulders, his expression steady and unyielding. Vanessa spun. What are you doing here? Blake didn't look at her. Not once. He looked at me, and his voice, quiet but firm, carried through the space. I came because I wanted to be someplace real tonight. Vanessa's face twisted. What does that mean? It means, Blake said, turning to her, I'm tired of pretending your family treats people well. Mom gasped like he'd committed blasphemy. Excuse me? Blake kept going, unflinching. Your sister built a community here. Something genuine. Something supportive. I've seen more kindness in this room in 5 minutes than I've seen from your family in months. I haven't degreenfromed, Dad snapped. You have no place judging us. We are her family, not you. Blake stepped slightly in front of me. An instinctive, protective motion that made Vanessa's breath hitch. Family doesn't drain a person to the point they can't breathe, he said quietly. Mom pointed dramatically at me. Stella, tell him we didn't rely on you. Tell him you didn't pay our bills. That you didn't fix the house. That you didn't— I cut her off with a whisper. Enough. I walked to my workbench. Everyone watched. I pulled open a drawer. Inside was a thick, worn brown envelope. I had never planned to use it. Not like this. I walked back and held it out to Dad. He snatched it with a triumphant smirk, until he opened it. His expression faltered, then froze. Inside were pages. Dozens. Receipts. Invoices. Proof of every bill I had paid, every repair I had covered, every emergency call I had answered. Mom's face drained of color. Vanessa's lips trembled. You kept track, Mom whispered. No, I said. I kept boundaries. I looked each of them in the eyes. You just never noticed them until now. The garage was silent. The biggest silence I'd ever heard. Dad's voice cracked. You will regret this. But something inside me had already shifted. So deeply, so permanently, that fear couldn't reach me anymore. No, I said softly. I regret letting it go on this long. And that line, was the spark that ignited the explosion coming next. Dad stood there clutching the envelope like it was burning through his skin. His jaw trembled, rage, humiliation, disbelief twisting his features in ways I hadn't seen since childhood. Mom reached out, snatching one of the papers with frantic fingers. Her voice cracked. Insurance payments? Mortgage penalties? Repairs? We never asked you to— You didn't have to ask, I said. You expected it. Vanessa stared at the stack of receipts like they were written in another language. You kept all of this? She whispered. I met her eyes. You kept taking. She flinched, as if the truth hit harder than any insult. Dad crushed the envelope in his fist. This is betrayal. No, I said. This is accountability. A ripple went through the room behind me. Jordan whispered. Damn, under his breath. Mrs. Ramirez silently crossed herself. Dad took a threatening step toward me. You think this makes you better than us? You think you can shame your own family? I didn't move. I didn't look away. I'm not trying to shame you, I said softly. But I'm done protecting you from yourselves. Mom's voice sharpened. Stella, stop this. Right now, tell everyone these documents aren't serious. Tell them you exaggerated. Tell them— No. That one word seemed to slice the air clean in half. Vanessa's face twisted with desperation. You're ruining everything. Do you understand that? Blake won't even answer my calls. He said he couldn't stand the way our family handled things. He said he needed space. He said— She choked on her own words. He said he finally saw us, Vanessa whispered. Because of you. Blake shifted behind them, his voice low, almost sad. He saw the truth, Vanessa. That's not Stella's fault. Vanessa spun toward him, shaking. You're choosing her over me? Blake shook his head. I'm choosing what's right. That broke something inside her visibly. She let out a high, sharp cry, fists clenched. Mom lunged toward him. How dare you speak to my daughter like— Blake didn't back down. And how dare you treat your other daughter like a workhorse? Dad erupted. Get out. You have no place lecturing us about family. Blake's jaw tightened. Then stop pretending you act like one. The garage went dead still. Even the heater stopped humming. Or maybe I just couldn't hear anything over the pounding in my chest. Dad jabbed a finger into my shoulder, hard enough to hurt. This is your doing. You turned him against us. You turned everyone against us. I stepped back, not from fear, but from exhaustion. You did that yourselves, I said. I just stopped covering for you. Mom's voice rose to a shriek. No one will believe you. No one will believe these papers. We raised you. We fed you. And I never owed you my adulthood for it, I replied. Tears streamed down Vanessa's blotched cheeks. Please, Stella. Please just fix this. I'll do anything. I'll apologize. I'll just help us get Blake back. Help us look normal again. Normal. The thing they worshipped more than decency. More than truth. More than me. I can't fix this, I said gently. Because this isn't a misunderstanding. This is who you've always been. Dad's face purpled. You're a disgrace. But the words missed their target entirely. They flew right past me. Because for the first time in my life, I no longer accepted them. Blake stepped to my side. Not touching. Not claiming. Just standing there. A quiet, steady presence. Vanessa saw it. And her voice shattered. Stop choosing her. She ruins everything. Blake spoke softly. She didn't ruin anything. She revealed everything. Mom grabbed Dad's arm. Let's go, she hissed. We're done here. Dad glared at me with a hatred that should have hurt. But it didn't. Because I finally understood. It wasn't hate. It was fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of being exposed. Fear that I had stopped playing the role they wrote for me. I lifted my chin. Leave, I said. They didn't move. So I said it again. Louder. Stronger. Final. Leave. And something in my voice, something they'd never heard from me, made them flinch. Dad turned first. Then Mom. Last was Vanessa, eyes hollow, mascara smeared like ash. They stepped out into the snow. The wind swallowed their footsteps. The cold closed in behind them. And the door, my door, clicked shut. For the first time in my life, the silence that followed felt like freedom. When the door finally shut behind them, the garage didn't erupt into noise right away. It stayed silent, so silent I could hear my own breathing, shaky and uneven but mine. For a few seconds I just stood there, staring at the metal panels like they might burst open again. They didn't. And little by little, the world around me began to move again. Jordan was the first to approach. He handed me a warm cup of cider, his voice low. You okay? I nodded, though the answer trembled somewhere between relief and disbelief. The two teens, Marcus and Lily, hovered nearby. Marcus nudged my elbow awkwardly. Miss Stella, that was kinda badass. Lily nodded fiercely. Yeah, you were like a superhero, except with wrenches. I laughed, really laughed for the first time all night, and the sound felt like something breaking loose inside me, something heavy finally lifting. Mrs. Ramirez stepped forward next, cupping my cheeks with her soft, warm hands. Mi niña. Sometimes family is not blood. Sometimes family is the people who stay. Her words slid into a part of me that had been aching for years. Behind her, Mr. Collins tapped his cane on the concrete. You did the hard thing, kid, he said. Hardest thing there is, telling the truth to people who don't want to hear it. I swallowed hard. Thank you, all of you, for being here. We're not going anywhere, Jordan said. Not tonight, not ever, unless you kick us out. The garage filled with soft laughter, the tension easing like a wound beginning to close. Someone started passing around plates again. The teens argued over who burned the rolls. Mrs. Ramirez tried to feed everyone more sweetbread. Life flowed back in, warm and real. Blake lingered near the doorway, watching me with a look I couldn't quite read. When the noise settled a bit, he walked over. You handled that better than most people could, he said quietly. I'm not sure I handled anything, I admitted. You did, he insisted. You set yourself free. Something gentle settled in my chest. A calm I'd never felt before. A knowing that I wasn't alone, not anymore, and maybe not ever again. As the night went on and the garage glowed with soft lights and soft voices, one thought anchored itself deep inside me. I didn't lose a family tonight. I found one. 1 year later, the snow fell the same way, soft, quiet, drifting across the lot outside my garage like nothing in the world had ever gone wrong. But I wasn't the same. I stood in the doorway, hands tucked into my jacket pockets, watching the warm light spill across the concrete floor. Inside, Jordan was teaching Marcus how to rotate tires. Lily was decorating a tiny Christmas tree, she insisted, the garage desperately needed. Mrs. Ramirez had just dropped off cinnamon bread, claiming none of us ate enough. My world was smaller now, but it was clearer. Kinder. Mine. My parents still texted occasionally, short messages, mostly practical, never emotional. Vanessa tried once in the spring to apologize, but it felt more like damage control than remorse. I wished her well. From a distance, I finally felt safekeeping. Healing didn't arrive like some grand revelation. It came slowly, in pieces. In quiet mornings, sipping coffee without dread. In evenings where no one demanded anything from me. In the realization that peace wasn't loud or dramatic, it was steady, earned, and sometimes lonely. But worth it. I didn't chase a seat at their table anymore. I built my own, and somehow, incredibly, it filled itself. Blake still visited now and then, bringing parts he wanted help installing, or dropping by just to talk. Maybe one day it would become something more, maybe not. But whatever it was honest. As I stood there, taking in the warmth and chatter inside the garage, a soft certainty settled in my chest. I hadn't lost a family that night. I had simply walked away from the wrong one, and by doing so, I finally found myself.